Back in 1989 when the Game Boy came out, one of its biggest drawbacks from a technical standpoint was the thing was very hard to play in the dark. As you can see right here, playing on this display isn't too bad because I have an adequate light source above me. And just in the right position you can perfectly see what's going on the screen. However, things change when you cover it just like this a little bit, you end up losing a ball, just like that. And everybody in my age group, probably in their 40s and maybe even lower 50s, will remember the big problem with the system. And that was the car rides in the back of the car or and sitting in bed. You weren't able to play a system like this, something we take for granted nowadays, and systems such as the Switch or the Steam Deck, and most portable handheld devices, the DS. Even the Game Boy Advance itself was able to provide a light for all the kids and adults and people who wanted to play their Game Boys in places that we didn't have adequate sunshine or light source. So what are people to do when they have a system such as this with no backlight? Arguably the biggest downfall of the system. Well, I introduce you something that we're going to talk about today that about a year later really helped things come into view, so to speak. The Game Boy Light Boy. So the Game Boy Light came out in 1990 thanks to a company named Vic Tokai. You may recognize them as the publisher developers of games such as Golgo 13 and the NES arcade port of Bump and Jump, or Famicom if you were all that way. So thanks to Vic Tokai, they were pretty quick on the scene with providing a fix to this screen which you cannot see without light. So what we're going to do is show off a little bit of this, and then we're going to give a little demonstration of its capabilities. So we have a power switch here. We have the battery compartment, which holds two AA batteries. Yes, AA batteries. That is going to power the thing. As you can see, it's called the Light Boy for a reason. And there's a hole here, which I'll go into in a moment. So when I first got this device, it wasn't lighting up thanks to these two little incandescent bulbs that are under here. And I was trying to figure out why this was. Was it maybe the bulbs were just dead? I mean, the thing is over 30 years old. Perhaps these bulbs just have had it. So, of course, instead of taking the, well, not that true. I was thinking, sure enough, maybe there's something going on back here just with the power getting to the light bulbs. So as you can see here, we have these little copper-looking connections. And then under here you have these metal plates. So how this works is you have this magnifier on the front and you have the incandescent bulbs here. And the battery is going to provide power to these bulbs, which you turn on with the power switch. Now for those lights to get the power, as you rotate this, these little copper nubs are going to, if you look especially at this right one here, as you see, watch, it's going to lower that plate and make contact right there. Okay, so when I had first gotten this, I figured that was probably what was going on. Maybe these were just a little rough, maybe they weren't very clean, and maybe there was even some oxidation going on there. So what I did was I tried to clean these off the best I could, and every time I would do this, nothing would happen. And even when I held it like up to a light, I could look through there, it looked like they were kind of making contact. So I said, maybe it's just the bulbs are bad. So I opened everything up. The only way really to get into this cover here is to take off these two screws. And you're able to slide the little bulbs out and replace them if you like. Although nowadays it's mostly LED bulbs. Everything else looked fine. There was no battery acid, none of that in the compartment. The power switch seemed fine. It was very clean inside actually. I was impressed. Arguably the worst thing that's probably got going on this is this lens here is a little scratched up. But after taking it all apart, especially from this top piece here and looking down, I discovered that these just simply were not pushed down enough. They were sticking out a little less than as you can see here. And just by simply pushing my thumb down, they kind of snapped into position a little better. And sure enough, from there, boom, it powers on. So that was pretty cool. Even though I ended up taking the whole thing apart, it actually went together pretty well afterwards. It was a little hard. I had to get a spudger and go through, but it looks like it sealed up pretty well. You got a little bit of some opening up here, but they were kind of there already when I had the thing beforehand. But as you can see, when you open it up, as long as you're making contact with those, it won't turn on until you to a certain point. So yeah, that's all there is pretty much to this. It's a very simple but useful device. And you're going to notice here when you open it up again, there's these little nubs here. So how you attach this is, I got to switch hands here. How you attach this is you have these screw holes in the back, and they kind of help guide the thing in. So you just kind of go like that, and you pop it down. And it's a decently held, secure device. It's not going anywhere. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is show you here. You can use this thing as is, just simply as a magnifier, or if you want to get more adventurous, then you have the bulb situation. So it's almost like a two-in-one device, which is great. Well, it kind of is a two-in-one device. And first we're going to try doing a little demonstration without the proper lighting. We're just going to use the light source we have in this room. And of course, this whole piece here is kind of making things a little dimmer than they really need to be. But I'm going to save that for a moment. Now getting back up here, you got this hole, okay? And it's pretty good forward thinking. They left this so you can snap that power button and turn it on. Now I don't expect anybody to really make out this picture, okay? It's pretty hard to see. And if we tilt it a little bit, we get a little more light. But once again, we go back to the root of the problem with the Game Boy, okay? But with a flick of a switch, there we go. We are in business. Look at this. This is great. And I have to say, it really does work. It adds a nice little view of the screen by enlarging it just ever so slightly. And of course, it lights up thanks to these bulbs. Now, these bulbs aren't as white in person as they will show in the video here. They're a little more like a warm light. So it's not too overbearing in person. It actually looks a little better in camera, but it's just enough, you know, to be laying in bed or, you know, in the backseat of a car. So what I have here is Solomon's key. Well, in Japan it's called Solomon. This is the Japanese version of it. It's Solomon's Club in America and in the West. So I'm just going to play a little bit here just so you can get a demonstration of the abilities of this device. So I picked this up this past weekend at a local gaming, well, it's actually the other week, at a local game show that's hosted here called Too Many Games. It's a popular gaming event that people can buy and find things. And I was just walking around, and I happened to notice this just sitting at a random dealer's table, and it was in a little Ziploc bag. It was in pretty decent shape. It wasn't too bad. A little dirty. It cleaned up really nice, actually. This was all just kind of gross. It was all yellowed and dirty and just scummy. But I was able to wash it down, wipe it down pretty nicely. I took the lens out. I cleaned that all up a little bit. My next step is to maybe try to polish it to get some of the scratches out. But I think I might just leave it for now. And I'm glad I didn't have to replace these bulbs. I think they're pretty satisfactory for what they are. But yeah, I paid about, well, the guy had it for $10. But me making a bargain, that's what I did. I said to him, do you think I could take this for $5? Mainly because I didn't know if it even worked. And when I first got home, my thoughts were, oh, there you go, just as I suspected, it was a broken device. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed with it. And overall, that's all there is really to say about it. If anybody's looking for a cool little accessory to throw on their Game Boy and is trying to be a little bit of a completionist and wants something, they're actually fairly inexpensive. I think they go for about $15, $20 on eBay. So even now, if you don't want to backlight your screen, you don't have the know-how, or just don't want to abuse or mod or take apart maybe your childhood Game Boy, something like this still functions. If you can find one with the bulbs that still work. I have seen people online that have swapped out the and then this just pops right off like this to get it off. So easy enough to do. And you can even close that and you don't even have to hit the power button, but I'm going to hit the power button anyway. If you're looking for something to brighten up your Game Boy without going through all the work of soldering and ordering a mod kit and all that, maybe take a look for one of these. It seems to work pretty well. And they're pretty durable too, not too bad. I suspect that originally it was probably closer in color to the Game Boy. You can see the Game Boy here. I have a pretty nice clean model. This is not a bootleg shell or an extra facsimile. This is an actual original shell that's just been really good condition. And you can see the tone's a little different. I suspect this was probably closer to this color back when it came out. Overall, though, it still matches pretty nice. It gives that classic gray brick look. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'm going to head out. Catch you guys next time. Take care.